And then they're supposed to be making Dogma 2.
Cool. Was that because of a whole thing with Miramax or
Weinstein?
Yeah. Yeah, I bought it on DVD a while back, and I ripped it in some of my jellyfin. So
yeah.
Well, speaking of Weinstein, there's some famous people that actually wouldn't mind if they died.
Right?
I might help them along if the opportunity
arose.
arose.
I think of quite a few of those people.
Bill Cosby.
Right. Yeah. All right. Welcome to episode 260 of the LinuxLUGcast. We're an open podcast /lug that meets at 9 p.m. Eastern every first and third Friday of the month using Mumble. We encourage anyone listening to us to join us and participate on the podcast. If you are unable to join us live on the podcast, you can send us an email at feedback@linuxlugcast.com. You can also check out linuxlugcast.com for all the server details to join us on Mumble. We have a Lemmy community where we post things. We have a Matrix community where we post things, talk about things, chat and whatnot. There's also a video version of this that if you are not seeing us now, you can see us. Just check us out on YouTube and Peertube. But the links to all of these are in the show notes. I'm your host this evening, Honky Magoo. With us tonight is Joe.
I am here, I swear.
Okay, good. Lovecraft.
Hello, everybody.
Minnix.
Hey, boys.
And Netminer.
Hello, guys.
What happened? Did we scare Eric off?
Who?
Yeah.
Eric was here?
Eric.
Eric
is here.
We scared him off again.
Oh. He was on the last show, too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before Danny gets into his
let's
spiel,
check out the wreck, the progress.
Yeah. Well, I'm still working on it. I do have, I guess, a little bit of hardware here, but it's just the keystones. So I've got keystones for Ethernet and keystones for HDMI on a 3D printed
cool.
half U. Actually, it's like 1.25U panel for this 10-inch server rack. And then, like I mentioned before, I have a space for my Netgear switch. Yeah. And it matches the model, so it should be fine. And then what I really wanted to talk about was like this right here.
Did you print that?
Yeah, and it's actually kind of big, and I was having some issues with printing at the time, but because it uses like 300 grams, I don't want to redo it.
A lot of filament.
Yeah, so it'll hold together well enough. I just think
once it's in the rack,
right there. Yeah. Once the 5 1/4 inch pieces are here, and I'm gonna 3D print some more adapters to bring that down to 3.5, and maybe some 2.25. But what is interesting is I took the STL for this 3-unit
drive bay, right?
Yeah, 3-unit 5 1/4 inch drive bay made for a 10-inch rack, and I split it into 3 portions and took off the sidewalls because it wouldn't fit on my printer. Took off the sidewalls here, the mounting portions, and then added mounting holes onto the centerpiece and the 2 side pieces. And it has worked really well to get this way too large for me to print piece into this rack. And then, like I said, I'm gonna print the adapters for 3.5 inch drives to fit in here. And then there's also another adapter that I'm going to add to those 3.5 inches for 2.5 inch, or for the 2.5 inch laptop drives to hold 2 of them. So at most, I'll be able to get 6 drives in here, and that'll be all 2.5s with a crap ton of adapters, just because, nerd. And then I'm thinking about pulling the power supply off of my DAS and somehow probably removing one of these lower shelves and mounting it down there at the bottom. And then in front of that, I also want to put my Raspberry Pis. I have a 2B that I can grab, and I have a 3B that I can grab, and probably a couple of zeros, and then mount them towards the bottom, and that will start occupying the Cat 6s that I'm not using.
So for those that just listen to the podcast, you guys really need to find us on YouTube and Peertube and check out this rack because it's awesome.
Yeah,
There's a lot of filament when I do this.
oh yeah, a lot. Of filament.
Really nice looking.
And like this one blue shelf here, when everything else is red and black, is actually Pet G, because that's where I'm planning on putting a small form factor mini PC, which will be a Portainer instance, essentially. I'll probably put Ubuntu or Mint or whatever on there. I don't really care. It can be headless for all I care. And so Proxmox should even work if I really wanted. But it'll be running Portainer, and then that'll have my DNS sinkhole, Pi-hole in a Docker image, and probably an instance of I'm going to set up Ubuntu with Chasm VPN. And,
you'll like it.
Have that. Well, I've already tested it out with their Chasm Web. Yeah. And I like that, but it's kind of immutable. And I understand the reason why, because, you know, if you're able to install more applications, then they're just going to get wiped out. But I want to do a volume that's shared to the local storage, and then just fill it with app images and run the app images from there.
That's a good idea.
And that should allow me to run my Joplin from there if I want to, or an instance of Nextcloud if I want to, with Nextcloud GUI. Well, I guess I wouldn't need the Nextcloud GUI, so I should be able to just do the Docker image of Nextcloud, and that'd be fine. But yeah, and having a dedicated computer to remote into.
So do you have it already, or are you going to get it? Or?
Well, I'm thinking about ordering one right now. There's one on eBay for about $45. An HP, what is it, 600 G3 Mini that has a USB-C port in the front.
Oh, nice.
And I'm thinking about getting that or something similar. And that's what this bracket is for. But Moss from over on the Mintcast was going to send me was talking about potentially sending me one of his small form factor computers. And I don't know if I want to wait for that or just order my own mini PC. Because I'll find a use for both. Seriously. So maybe I'll just order it and slide it in here. And they're almost the same size, but I don't think this bracket will fit on that, so I would have to 3D print something else. And I think I saw one that had two brackets that you could use. One that mounts in the front, one that mounts in the back, and then the whole thing slides in. That would probably work well, even if it was PLA. Yeah, I'm getting there, and even if I don't like custom print another shelf for the Raspberry Pis, this has these ventilation holes, and I should be able to rig up something to hold the Raspberry Pis in a case in place. And if it's like zip ties or something, I don't care. But
that thing looks nice.
Yeah, it's looking good so far. I'm really enjoying, you know, figuring stuff out and going into Tinkercad and making the prints work for me.
That was my favorite part, was the design part. And
speaking of 3D printers and Danny, how's that coming?
Well, I've been on the software side lately, so I haven't been doing any 3D printing.
Who are you feeding that line of bullshit? Us or yourself?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
I did dust it. I bought a duster, one of those Swiffer dusters, and I got all the dust off of it, so that's good. It was very dusty.
Cancel this print and start it over. I started printing the hard drive bracket.
How's it been running?
I had some issues the other day. It was interesting because it was acting like heat creep, And then it took me. I was trying to isolate the issue and trying to isolate the issue. I replaced the nozzle. I adjusted the PTFE tubing. I was searching around for what the problem could be. And while I was doing that, I had the hot end warm. And I finally noticed that my front cooling fan that has always ran all the time was intermittently stopping. Now, granted, it was super cold in my garage, so some of my assumption is that because it was that cold, that fan was actually programmed to turn off, and it had just never been cold enough for that before. But that turned out to not be the case. It was actually an issue where as it moves back and forth, the wire that goes to the Noctua fan that's there was being moved back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, over and over again until it had an internal short. And it being a Noctua fan, I wanted to fix it instead of having to buy another one. I was able. My first thought when I found out it was the fan was that it was one of my solder joints for the quick connectors that I had put into place. I assumed it was my mistake. So I pulled out my multimeter and I was able to shorten all my cables. I was planning on doing that anyway, and since I had all the zip ties taken out and I was testing, I shortened all the cables back down, reconnected them all, verified with the voltmeter that there was continuity all the way through to where it connected to the Noctua connector. That was all good. So I was able to start wiggling that cable and find out that it was actually a problem there. And I was able to isolate it to the ground cable because I knew it had to be one of the two cables that hooked to the connector. And what I ended up doing was putting slight tension on that cable and then heating up the casing with a lighter, and it just snapped in the right spot. So I, unsheathed the last pieces of the wire. I resoldered them together. It was very, very tiny, the area that I had to work with, so I wasn't able to get heat shrink tubing on there that didn't melt as I was trying to solder those two pieces together. So I ended up with a very small cut piece of electrical tape on it. I put that all into place, and then I zip tied the cable to the shroud so that it will not move again, and I should no longer have that problem.
Did you use the pine sill?
I did. If I'm saying I'm soldering, I'm using the pine sill, unless it's a really massive board that I'm working on. I mean, I did that in place because I wanted to be able to make sure that there was actually still power going through it and everything when I hooked it up. Yeah, that was an interesting bit of soldering, trying to get those tiny little wires connected, because super small going up to the fan, but I really wanted to not have to purchase another Noctua fan because they're like 14 or 15 bucks.
Good fans.
Yeah, it's super silent. I love it. And I'm eventually going to have to buy another one for the part cooler, but not today. And another, I had kind of assumed that it might have been the heating element on the extruder, on the heating block. So I had ordered a whole nother assembly, and I wasn't able to cancel it. So now I have a backup assembly with the thermistor and the heating element.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's always good to have spares.
Absolutely. Especially when it comes to 3D printers.
Absolutely.
Lovecraft, have you done any printing yet, or?
I have not. I've been just kind of busy with work and getting the new car on the road and all that. So maybe this weekend. Depends on how things go. But I'll definitely drop a picture of my first print in Matrix, and everyone can critique it.
Everyone can critique your Benchy.
Yeah.
Oh God! Another picture of another Benchy on the internet.
Did you get a new car?
Yes, I got a new car last last Thursday.
Yeah.
Any good tech in it?
Yeah, it's got all the tech in it. It's got the Android Auto and all that stuff.
What
And,
car?
I got a Tucson, so it's like a little
Tucson?
smaller SUV kind of thing.
Tucson? Tucson?
Yeah, a Hyundai.
I'm
So,
looking forward to having my first tech-enabled car. I've never had one, so.
I still drive a 2001.
You could add your own. Buy a semi-fancy car stereo from Amazon or something and put that in there.
No.
well, then, okay.
I don't think so.
Well, there you go. All right.
Well, I ordered my truck back in October, but still no word.
He ordered his Tesla Cybertruck
Oh,
back
yeah.
in
Well,
October.
those fancy, crappy-looking things.
No, I got a Ford Maverick, the small truck with the hybrid engine. So, I don't know when it'll get here.
Is it the plug-in hybrid?
No, it's not a plug-in hybrid. Just a regular. But it gets 40 miles a gallon for a little truck. That's pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah, you can't complain about that.
So we'll see. We'll see if it lives up to the hype, the MPG hype. But yeah, every time I get into a friend's car that's got a new car, I'm always jealous of all the tech they got in there. Cameras and the lane assist and all that stuff.
Mm.
yeah, I was a little this car is like if you're at a stoplight and like you're not on the gas quick enough going when the car in front of you goes, it's got this thing it beeps off. Lead car is driving away. I'm like, oh shit! Like give me a second here. Like I was like,
Yeah, I would turn that crap off quick.
yeah, I was like, wow, that's a little annoying.
I would look at my car and say, "Don't fucking tell me how to drive."
Say you already got
That's
a
when you
wife.
tell
don't
that
need
car.
car telling you that to.
Stop
Show that
backseat
car is
driving.
boss.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
So you ordered one?
Yeah, because the 2025 is the only model. It's the first model that they have all-wheel drive plus the hybrid engine.
Mhm.
Like you could get all-wheel drive before, but you had to get the standard engine. I really wanted the hybrid engine to save gas, so I ordered the 2025.
If you don't mind us asking, how much did it cost?
Oh, so check this out. Hang on one second. Yeah, that's the best thing about it. So I got it pretty much, not the top of the line model, but pretty nice, pretty fully loaded Ford Maverick with the all-wheel drive hybrid engine, all the whole tech package. What else? I think it's got like the alloy wheel upgrade, the paint upgrade, and all kind. The hard bed insert, and all that stuff. Under 35 for the whole thing. They're very reasonable. Now that doesn't include, because I want to get the extended warranty on it, since it'll be the first model that has both those features.
Since it's the hybrid, are you able to get a tax break?
Do they still have those?
So,
If they do, I could. I thought they got rid of that, though.
I think they still have them.
Do they? Well, it depends, I guess, when I actually go to pay for it. Trump is in office. Probably won't have that anymore. I wanted to get it before just in case the tariffs came, before all that happened. So, let's see. Hybrid tax break.
Warranty joined.
Okay, here we go. RS. Credits for new clean vehicles purchased in 2023 or after. If you place in service a new plug-in electric EV or fuel cell vehicle, I don't have it. Who qualifies? I remember
you.
it was $7,500 if you buy a new qualified plug-in EV or fuel cell electric vehicle. This isn't a plug-in.
Okay.
That sucks.
I'm looking at the newer plug-in hybrids. I think those would be useful because, well, I don't want to pay for one, but I think they would be useful because if I could get one, then I could potentially charge it at work.
Right.
And 40 miles is enough for me to get home, go back. I'd almost never have to actually use fuel.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But
My
then
question-
if I needed it, it'd be there.
My question is, when you're charging it at home, how much does it cost electricity wise to charge it up?
Probably the same as a tank of gas. I don't know.
I don't think so. No way.
Probably not. But either way, I would want to try and charge it as much as possible at work.
Right.
Okay. Treasury Department's official list of eligible vehicles.
Well, aren't they pushing more of like the electric or something where it actually plugs in?
Yeah.
Like you're talking about the gas, like a gas hybrid or a gas electric, or
Well,
as
the
opposed to
plug-in
just regular
hybrids
straight up
would
hybrid.
still qualify because they're still plug-in vehicles.
But I'm saying his wouldn't be because it's not.
His
It's
wouldn't
just
be.
a hybrid. It's not a plug-in hybrid.
It's still fuel efficient comparatively.
That's very true. But I don't think I think they're leaning more towards the something with electric and an actual battery in it.
But I'm sure that all these tax breaks will go away by this time next year.
So here's a one from December of 2024. Okay, mild hybrids. These vehicles use an electric motor to assist the engine. However, the electric motor cannot power the car independently. Full hybrids, the engine and electric motor can work together or independently, and plug-in hybrids is the plug-in. So types of federal tax credits for vehicles. Then new plug-in electric vehicles can receive up to $7,500. Pre-owned plug-in vehicles up to $4,000. EV charging equipment up to 30% off. So no, I don't think it has to be a plug-in hybrid or a fuel cell vehicle.
Right.
That sucks.
Don't worry, now that you've bought it, when it's about half paid off, they'll switch to hydrogen vehicles.
Mhm.
Have to own a hydrogen vehicle.
Oh well. The current list of vehicles that make the credit are the Audi Q5, Chrysler Pacifica, Ford Escape, Jeep Grand Cherokee, Jeep Wrangler, and Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring. It's a pretty small list.
Yep. So you ordered it. Does that mean you put like a down payment on it, or?
No, you don't have to. Well, it's funny. So on the website it says $500 deposit, and then you order it. So I went up there. I talked to a guy. I wrote him a check for $500. Ordered the vehicle, and then I hadn't heard anything back. So a few weeks ago, I went up there, and the guy said it was a different guy. He said, "No, we quit taking deposits on those because it wasn't working out. So you don't have to pay a deposit." I said, "Well, I gave y'all a check for $500." He said, "Well, look at your bank statement." He said, "More than likely it wasn't. It was never cashed." So I looked and it was never cashed, so I canceled it. So no deposit necessary. They did that last year, though.
But they're still telling you that you're on a list.
Oh yeah, I got the printout and everything, and I got the codes, and we built it just how I wanted it online and stuff together. So Just gotta wait.
Oh, cool.
I just gotta pray that my truck doesn't bite the bullet before I get the new one. You know. I got 250,000 miles on the truck.
Wow. Not bad. What type of truck?
This is Tacoma,
Okay.
so I'm not too worried about it. Knock on wood. Plus, I got AAA in case.
That reminds me, the other day when I was checking to see, or when I was telling you that I was thinking about going to Micro Center, it was
Mhm.
because I was planning on picking up a power supply
Oh, really?
from you.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
was hoping to get to, but the problem is like right after I messaged you, I was about to get my allergy shots, and my wife called. As I'm standing there, and they're about to stick me, and I'll be stuck there for half an hour, and says that she was on her way to pick up our son, and one of the tires in the van blew. So
Ooh.
I ended up having to go and pick up my son, and then go find her on Angel Parkway. I don't know if you're familiar with Angel Parkway, Danny.
Is that in Allen?
It's the Allen Lucas line.
Okay. Yeah, I know where that's at. It's not close.
Yeah, it's busy though. And change the driver's side front tire on the side of the road.
So her friend was a girl too?
What friend?
Was it? I thought you said this was your daughter's friend.
No, this was my wife.
Oh, okay.
Was going to pick up my son, and then I had to,
I gotcha.
go get JoJo and then go change the tire on the van. So
What day was that?
that was before the snow.
Was it a Saturday?
Was
Or
it?
Sunday?
No, it had to be a
wasn't
weekday.
a weekend?
It
Oh,
was a weekday.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Because usually on the weekends I'm in Plano, so I'm not far from you. I'm right there in North Plano, actually, next to Allen.
Well, I was in Plano as well at the
Yeah.
time, so it took me a while to get there, and then it took me like an hour to change that tire.
So any weekend that you want to meet up, we can probably do that. You wouldn't have to drive far.
Yeah. Well, I was also using it as an excuse to go walk around Micro Center because I like walking around Micro Center.
Yeah, me too. I was just there recently. I bought that little pie hat.
I've gone by. I didn't buy anything last time I was there, but I did, want to look at things and just price things and dream. But yeah, it was interesting.
Ogle and drool.
Yeah.
They're a
Go through
little.
their 3D printer section and dream about getting a bamboo.
We've got one at the workshop. Pretty cool. That little pie hat was cheap, $12. It was official Raspberry Pi kind.
And I was also looking at the time, they didn't have the Pi 500s yet. They still had the Pi 400s.
Hmm.
And they did have Pi 5s, but they didn't look like they had a lot.
I didn't even look at that.
Pi 500. I would be very cautious about heating issues.
Well, Danny, have you tried yours yet?
Oh yeah. Should we get into that?
Sure. You had a whole mess of topics
but I don't
there.
have a Pi 500. I just have a Pi 5.
Right.
Yeah, but you've done a whole bunch of stuff to it, so
Yeah.
run it down.
Let me
Right.
bring up my notes. Part of the show notes here. Oh. It's 260, right?
Yep.
Okay. See what we got here. So, if you're listening and you've ever thought about putting Proxmox on a Raspberry Pi, there are some hoops you have to jump through, but I was able to do it. So I started out with the Raspberry Pi 5 that my boss gave me. He gave it to his grandson for Christmas, and his grandson had like zero interest in electronics or computers. That's like my boss's thing. Grandson likes football and baseball, not computers. So he gave it back to his grandpa.
Time to disinherit him.
And his grandpa gave it to me. And it was a Raspberry Pi 5, 8 gigabyte. So he gave me that, case, and power supply, and a micro SD card too. Oh, and then the case came with a active cooler, a little fan and heat sinks and stuff.
Okay, I was gonna ask that. Yep.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't have any more pies. So I was like, yeah, I'll take it, see what I can do. So I remember reading about some guy that put Proxmox on the Raspberry Pi 4, but I read that you could put it on the Pi 4 or the Pi 5. So there's a guy, and I put all this in the show notes too, that made a proxmox-port for ARM, because Proxmox doesn't make an ARM version of their Proxmox hypervisor for servers, only x86. So this guy made the port. It's called proxmox-port on GitHub, and he's got a mirror for the repo. Oh, hey, Eric. We're just talking about my Raspberry Pi that was given to me, what I've done with it so far. So.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So I was able to put, so that the issue with it is, from the guides I've read, you want to use Raspberry Pi OS Lite 64-bit version, and that Raspberry Pi has their own installer. And so what's cool about it is you don't even need to put a micro SD card into the Pi anymore. It does a netboot over the network. So as long as you have it hooked up and you have some kind of storage on there that it can boot from, you just turn it on, and it's because the Raspberry Pi has UEFI now, so it has a BIOS, and it downloads the image and installs it for you. But the problem with that is that it doesn't give you the option to install it to a partition. It doesn't give you the option to only use part of a disk. It just installs everything and fills up the whole disk. So I had a SSD, NVMe M.2 SSD from a laptop, because I bought a hat for it, the M.2 hat, and I had one out of an old laptop, which I was still using, but I was like, I don't need to use it that bad. So I took the SSD out of it, 500 gigabyte, because that is the only short form factor one I had that would fit that hat, and put that on the hat. And then every time I try to install Raspberry Pi OS Lite, which is the server version, there's no desktop, it would fill up the whole disk. So I said, man, there's got to be a way to do this, because I only want about 16 gigabytes to install the OS, and I need to use the rest of the disk for VM and container storage for Proxmox. So what you have to do to save room on your disk is install it. I installed it to a micro SD card, a 16 gigabyte micro SD card, and then I DD'd that over to the M.2 drive, the 500 gigabyte M.2 drive, so that it only filled up 16 gigabytes of the drive instead of filling up the whole thing. And then I created just a Linux partition on it for the rest of it. So that gave me storage for containers and all kinds of other stuff. And I installed I put the M.2 back on the Pi and booted up, and it booted up just fine. Said 16 gigabytes of storage, Raspberry Pi OS Lite. And then there's a repo in the show notes where you can install proxmox ports from, which is the ARM version of Proxmox. And so I installed that on the 16 gigabyte partition. And then when I fired up Proxmox, I looked under disks and I had a whole nother, 470 something gigabytes that I could do whatever I want to with. So Proxmox has a format called LVM thin provisioning, make a thin pool. And what's cool about this LVM format is that it only fills it up when blocks are written. So say you put I don't know, just for an example,
dynamic storage allocation.
Yeah, 100 gigabyte VM or container on that storage. Well, it's not going to show up as 100 gigabytes taken up. It's only going to show up as however much actual data I have within that VM or that container. So you really want to use LVM thin within Proxmox. And the only way to get it is to have extra disk space after you install it. Because when you install the OS and Proxmox on top of it, it splits it into local storage, which is for, you could put like backups, or you could put ISOs, and you can put Linux container templates in there, but you can't put actual machines in there. And then the other part of the storage is for the OS itself. So 16 gigabytes is plenty for that. And then so that left me with the rest for containers and for virtual machines, which I probably wouldn't run a virtual machine on a Raspberry Pi Proxmox because it's not beefy enough, really. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't be great. So after I created the partitions and all that stuff, I created the rest of the disk to use as LVM thin, and then I started making Linux containers. They give you templates, Proxmox does, their repo. And so for some reason, I couldn't get the Debian templates to download. They wouldn't download. So I had to use Ubuntu server, which is not that much different, except for the snap components, but whatever. So I used Ubuntu server in Linux containers within the LVM thin LVM thin partition of the disk. And so I've got one, I'm using Linux container for Etherpad, and Etherpad works great. Chasm, I've been using Chasm on there, and Chasm's awesome. Joe mentioned it earlier, and it's basically a Dockerized desktop that you can access via a web browser. And so that's where I run Nicotine Plus and things like that. And I only gave it 1 gigabyte of RAM because I'm trying to save. I've only got 8 gigabytes to work with, and part of it has to go to the OS. And so the problem I was having with Chasm was anytime I would fire up a web browser like Firefox or Chromium or something, it would crash the web browser because it would eat up all the RAM. So I found a browser called Min, M-I-N, minimal browser that still is able to run the modern web in the Raspberry Pi repos, actually. And they had an ARM64 port of it, and it works great. It's never crashed, even with only a gigabyte of RAM for the whole operating system. So I recommend Min browser. It can still run all the modern web features, JavaScript, whatever. So that's what I installed within Chasm, as well as Nicotine Plus. Another container I'm running is for searching, also spelled SEARXNG, SEARXNG. So that's my search engine. And then I have a Linux container for my Git repo. Git is a self-hosted Git repo. And then I made another Linux container for just different web tools that I was using within Unohost. Because also today I finally got rid of Unohost after I was able to move the web tools I wanted to Dockerize containers within a Linux container. So a few of those I want to talk about. Swifty, spelled SSHWIFTY. So this took the place of Shell in a Box that I was using on Unohost. So it's just a browser-based terminal, except it's even more secure. So before, if you went to the URL, you were met with a terminal screen that, just like any other Linux terminal, Linux shell, that had log in and so that's your login and password, where this one has an authentication screen first that you have to type in your user and password before you can even get to a machine, and then you have to type in the IP address of the machine you want to SSH to, and then you're presented with the terminal in the browser. And I like that a lot better. Swifty, I recommend that. There's a Docker Compose file for that out there. Wallabag, I think we talked about that before. It's basically just a link bookmarker where anything you see that looks interesting, you can save your links to. It's the same concept as Pocket, which is the one that Firefox bought, and except it's self-hosted. And you can save web articles on there, and then it also has text-to-speech, so it can read them to you straight from the Wallabag app, and they have the phone app and stuff too. And then Glance. So I was using Miniflux as a feed reader, but I like Glance because it's not just for it's not just for text feeds. You can do video feeds, you can do audio feeds, you can do weather feeds, you can do whatever on there. It's pretty cool. So I've just started messing with that. And then I wanted a dashboard to hold all my apps where I could just get to them on one screen. And Heimdall is what I'm using. And that's on the Raspberry Pi in that same WebTools container. And it's pretty cool. I posted a screenshot in Element and the Matrix. If you're listening to this, join our Matrix and come see what we're talking about. And it's just a place that has all the shortcuts to all my web apps I'm hosting. But what's cool is a lot of times they'll accept API tokens too from whatever web app. So you can see them like my image server will show like how much space I have on there, how many photos, how many videos within the little tab, and just things like that that are neat little touches. Git will show what repos are active and stuff. And so I recommend Heimdall, Heimdall. And currently, and so I was also able to add the Proxmox on Raspberry Pi to my Proxmox cluster too. So it's all part of my cluster with my x86 machines. So I've got 3 machines in there. I've got the Raspberry Pi, my big server, and then the little Lenovo proxy server. And the Raspberry Pi with all that running on it is currently using about 5% of CPU and 3.34 gigabytes of 7.86 gigabytes of RAM. So I still got a lot of room on there that I could, especially RAM is what I was mostly thinking about. A lot of room I can put more apps. So that's quite a bit to run on a little Raspberry Pi in a hypervisor too. That shows you kind of how low memory footprint Linux containers are, how great they are. I think they're great. So that's the Raspberry Pi part. I recommend this to if you're not like in a production environment, because it's not really production ready. I've noticed some things like I had a backup issue on there where on Proxmox I back up everything to their Proxmox backup server, PBS. It's another operating system you can install, which is basically Debian with PBS on top of it. And it's just a backup storage solution that makes it really easy to back up containers and VMs from a Proxmox server. So the Raspberry Pi will not back up to the Proxmox backup server. It starts it, and then I get an error message, and I'm pretty sure it's because it's trying to back up from an ARM system to an x86 system, and there's some kind of incongruence between Proxmox ARM port and the official Proxmox backup server. So what you can do is what I did is I just got a little SSD in a case and hooked it up via USB 3 on the Raspberry Pi, a 1 terabyte SSD, and you can plug that into your Pi, and Proxmox will see it as a disk, wipe the disk, and then choose to create or use the disk as what they call a directory. So directories can take containers, images, they can take ISOs, and they can also take backups. and so but they can't take VMs and actual working containers. So that's my backup storage. That's 1 terabyte, and I was able to within Proxmox, I was able to run scheduled backups through the interface to back up to that little SSD, and then I'll probably have another one remotely too that I can send it over to too. So if you want to back up stuff on a proxmox-port on Raspberry Pi, you have to do something like that. You can't use the official Proxmox backup server. But I was able to get it worked out and figured out. So that's what I did with my Raspberry Pi. And I was really surprised at how capable it is of running in hypervisor and just kind of low, not very intensive, applications, containers, Docker, all that stuff. Like I said, the only real caveat is the backups, and for some reason I can't get Debian containers to work on there, but Ubuntu containers work just fine.
And you wanted to sell it.
I wanted to sell it, yeah. And all I invested was $12 on getting that little hat for it. And that PCI hat for M.2 is great. I mean, it's super fast. I didn't do a perf or anything on it, but I can tell that just from the I/O delay that Raspberry Pi shows within Proxmox, it's consistently below like 0.25%, so not even 1% I/O delay, which is, for those that don't know, is the time it takes for the CPU to catch, or for the storage to catch up to the CPU.
Now, how does that hat? Do you have to leave the Pi 5 naked, or what do you have for a case?
So I'm using an official Raspberry Pi case, but I cannot have the top on there because it won't fit. The top is what has the fan on there, and there's another top that came with it that doesn't have a fan. So I'm using he gave me the active cooler, which is like a heatsink with the fan on it that sits under the hat. So it cools all the components under the hat, but you still can't put the top on the case. So the case is on, it just can't have the top on there. So the little M.2 is sticking out of the top. But it's still not, it's not that vulnerable because the hat takes the place of the top of the case, I posted pictures of it in Matrix for you guys a while back when I first set it up, so you can kind of see what it looks like. So it's not bad, and it's really quiet, super low power, and yeah, man, I like it a lot. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it if you were just looking for a Proxmox host. You can buy a cheaper, more capable computer with more RAM for Proxmox and a small x86 machine. But if it was given to you, or you need what do you call the I/O pins, the GPIO, then yeah, give it a shot. It's been a great little box.
Well, I'm just wondering if going with the the NVMe hat would affect the desktop performance of the Pi.
I have no idea because I don't have a desktop on it. Just running Raspberry, what's it called? Raspberry Pi OS Lite. So it's just a server version.
Yeah, basically it's Debian.
And what's cool about the hat too is it has it fits over the GPIO pins, and then it has its own socket on top, so you can still access all the pins from the hat side. And through the Proxmox interface, when you look at updates, it pulls updates from Raspberry Pi as well as from Debian and proxmox-port. So it's pretty cool. There is an issue now. When I try to reboot it from the Proxmox interface, it won't reboot. So if I do a big update, I have to be here to manually turn it off and then turn it back on again, the Raspberry Pi itself.
You can't SSH in and reboot it?
I mean, that's what I do. Is
all right.
Try and but it won't reboot. It won't shut down. Like when it's shut down, the Raspberry Pi actually has a light on it and a button. The Raspberry Pi 5 does to turn it off and on. And so you have to go in and actually push the button down for a few seconds until it turns itself off and then turn it back on. Now I'm sure that's purely because of whatever Proxmox doing on Debian, but yeah, it's running some kind of interference where you can't shut it down remotely or reboot it remotely. So just keep that in mind. If you don't do updates unless you're, especially kernel updates, unless you're close to it somewhere. But all those, I have links to all those applications I mentioned in the show notes, and also the repo for proxmox-ports. So if you've got one, I say if you had at least 4 gigabytes of RAM at minimum, give it a shot because they have it for the 4 and the 5 proxmox-port. They actually have. They give a list of compatible devices on here, ARM devices. The ROC64 is on there. I was surprised about that. Let's see. So proxmox-port, tested platform. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not the ROC64, the ROC Pi. Also the Apple M series chips. The Vision 5.2 RISC-V 64 is on there, but that's in early stages. An ARM64 AM Logic TV box. And then whatever that Lung Song, the Chinese CPU, you know, they created their own, the one that RMS was talking about he likes to use. It's open. Ampere servers, like what Oracle runs. So, by the way, I have some Oracle stories and some server monitoring stories too, but I'll tell those later. Started talking right now. So, what did you get an Orange Pi or a Rock Pi, Honky?
Orange Pi.
Orange Pi.
Yep.
Is it the Rock chip processor?
I don't know. It's the 03.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just I thought it was like the Orange Pi, the full board, but it's the 0 version.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's ARM.
And Raspberry Pi is currently doing backups because I have it set to start at 9:30. Backup all the containers. But that Min web browser that I found is super cool. It's like what Chrome used to be before it turned into the memory hogging behemoth that it is now.
Well, I don't know about running on that low a memory machine, but I've had good luck on ARM with a Chromium port called Thorium.
And another thing. Oh, go ahead, Netminer.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I don't know how it would work on a 1 gig or 1 gig partition or what have you, but the Thorium browser is available for the Pi, and it's supposed to be an optimized optimized Chromium.
Yeah, give Min a try. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll have to see what I can do when I get something up.
It
By
just
the way,
spells MIN.
yeah, I know. I've heard of it, but what I'm waiting on is to get some USB to SATA adapters. I picked up a couple of 64 gigabyte SSDs for some of my Pi experiments, so that I can have use those as an OS disk, while larger disks are used for storage. I'm going to try Open Media Vault on some Pis to see how they work.
There is. I was going to say this. There is a caveat with another caveat with the Raspberry Pi, as far as running LXCs on it, is on standard Proxmox installations on x86 machines. You can see through the interface how much memory each LXC is using, and like how much CPU usage per VM and per LXC. On the Raspberry Pi, you can only see the storage size. So how many gigabytes of storage you gave it. When you go to look at memory and CPU, it just shows you what the Raspberry Pi itself as a total is using. It won't show it for per container like standard Proxmox installs do. Oh, and I just looked, and by the way, I gave Chasm 2 gigabytes of RAM, not 1 gigabyte.
Did you use Etherpad? I know you have the link here for it, and I apologize if I missed the first part of it. Did you use it in collaboration with someone, or yeah?
Yeah. There's a woman I've been talking to in a group about philosophy and like book recommendations and things like that. So we've been using the Etherpad for that. We'll like write down the book and then what we liked about it and stuff like that. It worked really good. I wanted to get rid of. There's an extension to get rid of the chat because like I think on Honky's Etherpad it has, you see that bottom at the chat at the bottom.
Okay, so this is for the show notes. This is Etherpad.
Yeah. So
okay.
And I think Honky's running an older version of Etherpad because the newer version, the chat is very obnoxious there, and they have an extension to get rid of that chat. And but it whenever you open Etherpad, and if you have that extension installed, it crashes Etherpad. It'll eventually come back up, but every time you open it, it crashes, and then you have to wait for it to come back up. And I don't know why that is. So if there's a way I could get rid of that stupid chat icon, because on the phone it's even worse. It like takes up half the screen, and I have zero impulse to chat with anybody on fucking Etherpad. You know, I wish there was just an option to turn it off, but there's not. Not in the Docker file or anywhere. It's just built in. So you have to actually install an extension to get rid of it instead of opt in. You have to opt out, I guess.
And it's not in the. I'm sorry, it's not in the admin page for Etherpad?
No.
Nothing on there? Okay.
It gives you options for chat, but not to get rid of chat. There's no option to not show it or anything like that. Like you have to literally go to the admin panel and look at the extensions list, and there's one to get rid of chat, but then it fucks with Etherpad.
And what is the search XNG thing? Oh, that's your search engine. That's the one I've been using.
Yeah.
Been
So I moved that to the Raspberry Pi. Yeah, because it was pretty
cool.
It wasn't intensive at all. And so I moved all those web tools to the Raspberry Pi. I was able to just get rid of Unohost because the more I used Unohost, the more frustrated I got. Just got rid of it. Honky's got his hand raised. Did you want to say something? It's raised on the Jitsi server. We can't hear you.
Sorry. I was going to say, I just installed the Min browser and I was playing with that. I guess I must have hit something with my hand. Oh, yeah, I like the little hand.
Yeah.
Do you guys get the Swifty reference for Rick and Morty?
No.
Get Swifty with it. It's when the aliens it's like galactic song contests where they come and like destroy your planet if they don't like your pop song, and so they write a pop song and get Swifty with it. Okay, just curious.
No, I don't know that, so I guess I'm missing out.
No, it's fun when
you need
said
to watch
Swifty,
Rick and Morty.
It made me laugh. Yeah. Somebody's got a soundboard.
No, it's in Jitsi. If you go down to the bottom where it has
Jitsi has a soundboard.
It has the little hand and that little arrow. You could hover over the arrow and it's got reactions like this one. Yeah,
I like the woo.
I never even noticed that until Honky did it.
Jitsi is a surprisingly excellent piece of software that for some reason doesn't get used.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't. What?
Like it's so much better than Zoom, in my opinion.
That's being abused. I'm about to turn all that off.
That's right. Better than the Discord one. Good lord.
Is Discord bad?
I love the Discord one. You can put custom sounds on there.
Oh, they're so awful.
Thanks,
At least
Dad.
you can block them. Yeah.
Thank your father, kids.
Thanks, Dad.
Everybody caught that reference, right?
No. Is that Simpsons?
No.
No, it's National Lampoons.
No.
No? Oh, sorry.
Married with Children.
Oh. I tried watching that again like last year. It did not age well.
Oh, I still like it. I still watch reruns sometimes.
I still watch reruns.
Okay.
Great. I like No Ma'am and all that stuff.
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
But I can
It's
see
funny.
why you would think that it didn't age well. I mean, cinematography has changed quite a bit since then.
Well, it's definitely not politically correct either.
It's definitely not politically. Yeah. That was the whole reason that it got popular, was that it wasn't politically correct.
Well, isn't it the show that gave Fox that reputation?
Yes.
Yeah,
but,
probably.
I mean, comparatively, things move much faster these days. But then if you try to watch something from the 60s, that's even slower. Go back and try to watch the original Star Trek TOS, and it's just so slow compared to anything you watch now.
You don't like the original Star Trek?
I love the original Star
Trek,
Trek.
I can admit it's not good.
I'm just saying that in terms of cinematography, it moves at a much, much slower pace than the things you watch today.
See, Joe's part of the TikTok generation. You can't handle it.
I would rather
He's
watch
canceled.
the old Star Trek than the new Transformers.
TikTok at all. Well, I agree. That's because the new Transformers movies suck ass.
Well, it's because it's nothing but like
eye candy.
It's exactly completely vapid, no real content, just a bunch of shit moving around on the screen.
I'm not saying that slower pacing is bad. It's just that slower pacing is completely different from what you get these days.
Yeah. Well, it's like, do you like the Twilight Zone?
Yeah, I do. I do like the original, all the different variations of the Twilight Zone and things like it that came out after the Twilight Zone. I enjoyed that. But the whole point of cinematography at that time was to show you things.
Mm-hmm.
And now, if they're showing you something in something modern, they're showing you something flashy. And it's that quick talking back and forth between people that is expressing the story, as opposed to the imagery that's expressing the story.
Yeah, okay. I'll agree
Something
with
like that.
Yeah, no,
You know what I thought?
I agree.
You know what I thought was interesting was actually so this past October I went through a whole watching a bunch of horror movies and like the older horror movies and stuff. So I rewatched The Birds because they put it up on Netflix. How much of that movie had nothing to do with the birds at all? And then it's like the last 15, 20 minutes is when the birds decide to attack. But you have this whole other story about this woman who's basically just kind of stalking this guy who that she met at the beginning of the movie. This whole other freaking story, and then there was birds that attacked him.
Okay. Let me give you a modern equivalent to that. That would be Quentin Tarantino from Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, but the whole beginning of that was just fantastic to begin with. That could have been like a really good story.
Fantastic.
This was just some woman stalking some dude. That was what's his name? Quentin Tarantino and
George Clooney.
George Clooney kidnapping Harvey Keitel and his kids.
Hitchcock has some awesome movies. I've never liked The Birds, though.
And then halfway through the movie, vampires.
Yes. But Salma
Hayek, mostly naked.
Yeah. Judy. What's his name? The guy who played Sex Machine, who is also the director of the remake of Night of the Living Dead.
I don't know his name.
Shit. He's a makeup artist.
I can picture him in my head.
Savini. Yes, Tom Savini. Thank you. Yes. From Dusk Till Dawn was just fucking fantastic.
And then it had a whole bunch of sequels.
Yes.
And a TV show.
Well, a prequel, a sequel, a prequel, and then apparently a television show, yeah. Yeah, all the rest of those. Well, I never saw the television show, but the rest of them were garbage.
It had Handy Manny in it.
I wish it wasn't George Clooney, personally.
You like George Clooney?
I think he's very unconvincing in that role. He was coming out of doing what's that stupid
Batman?
hospital TV show? No, he was doing
ER?
a TV show. ER, yeah. I think he was that was ER era. And I don't know, he just there's parts of it where he just really doesn't convince me as being like a cruel, tough guy. You know what I mean? He's just, I don't know. That's all. I just watched it last week, so it just kind of stuck in it's in my head. And
okay.
Tarantino as a creep is actually really scary. He is totally a disgusting human being. It looks like he sells it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So Tarantino movies are two things. One, dialogue. Some of the dialogue in fucking Tarantino movies are awesome. Oh, yeah. Reservoir Dogs, that whole scene of at the breakfast table, that whole conversation is so just fucking fantastic.
Yep.
And then just crazy action. There's just some. You take anything out of Kill Bill was fantastic with some crazy wannabe Asian action. It just Reservoir Dogs is just awesome.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction was fun. Who's Zed? Zed, baby.
You know where he got it wrong though was in that one with Kurt Russell in the car on that one
Death
he
Wish?
did. Yeah, that scene at the cafe with those chicks talking for about half an hour was just nails on a chalkboard for me. It was awful.
I saw it once a long time ago. Death Wish, the Roadhouse.
Oh yeah, it's
Grindhouse.
Grindhouse. Thank you.
I personally think that is pretty weak in general. I just don't understand. Like, I get it's his thing. I get that's like what he wants to present, and he's only making 10 movies and yada da. But I hadn't seen it, and so I went on a Tarantino fest. I liked To Live and Die, or what is it? The Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or whatever.
Really? You liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I did, and I did not like Grindhouse. So
yeah. Do they count part of his movies? Do they count True Romance?
Well, he wrote that one. I think that's one of his best writing jobs, at least.
True Romance was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to watch that one.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you definitely need to watch that one.
It's very good.
True Romance is what it's called?
True Romance, yep.
Oh, you never seen that? With Christian Slater and...
Yep.
James Gandolfini? Yeah.
Christopher Walken, Dennis Hopper. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody's in it. It's a good cast.
Great movie, great dialogue.
Even though it's not directed by him, you can definitely tell he was involved with it.
Yep.
When you watch it. I really like Reservoir Dogs. If you're including True Romance, I like that one. I wasn't a big fan of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I liked Jackie Brown, Pulp Fiction, of course. And Kill Bills were okay.
I liked Kill Bills for what they were.
Yeah, they were just a throwback action movies.
Yeah, they're supposed to be like homage to the Hong Kong action movies.
I thought Hateful Eight was pretty boring.
Very fucking boring.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah. Hateful Eight and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was just fucking boring too.
No,
Inglourious Bastards.
That was okay.
Inglourious Bastards was fine. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad. In other words, like I saw it once and I didn't hate it, but I don't have any plans on watching it again. Unlike Reservoir Dogs and True Romance, which I can just watch anytime. Pulp Fiction.
Now, Hateful Eight is a remake of two movies. One is called Cutthroats 9. It's an Italian Western. That movie is fucking awesome. And the other one is called The Black Tavern. It's a kung fu movie, old Hong Kong movie. And that movie is fucking awesome. If you thought Hateful Eight was a little boring, you should check out those two original movies. Oh, that also brings me into Django, which I thought was okay, I guess.
It was fine.
But I really loved the original Django movies. I thought those were great.
Original Django movies?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was a remake.
Oh, yeah. Those are great. You never seen the Italian Western Django? There's several of them. Let's see. Who was the guy that was in them?
Yeah, I haven't seen the Django Unchained, but I've seen the others.
Yeah, Sergio Corbucci. He's the one that made the Django movies. They're great. There's several of them, I believe. Django Strikes Again. They're all Italian westerns. Very violent too.
Yeah.
They're from the 60s,
I guess
early 70s.
I feel like if I was a cinema nerd and like gave a shit, like it would be more interesting to me. But I guess I don't know.
Why don't we go ahead and get into the movie since we're doing a movie talk? Anybody watch The Circle?
I watched it.
I've seen it before.
Oh, you already seen it?
Yeah, but I watched it again.
So it's got a big time cast in it. Emma Watson, Bill Paxton, Tom Hanks.
Bill Paxton was barely in it, though.
Yeah.
Was that?
Bill Paxton was barely in it.
Plays Emma Watson's dad, and so I'll give you a quick overview of the premise. Is that Emma Watson gets in. What is she getting, like an argument or something, and gets upset with her friend and goes kayaking at night.
You jumped way
That's
into
like
that.
the middle.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
So she gets a job at a tech company that's kind of like
she works at a
somewhere
call
between
center
Apple
first.
and Google.
She works at a call center first, right?
Right, but then she gets a job at a tech place. A tech place called The Circle. That's basically like a combination of Apple and Google.
I would say Facebook. more than anything.
Well, no, Facebook's not trying to encompass everything. Facebook is just a.
Well, yeah, they are. They are. Okay, so they had.
There was a very social aspect to it, so
yeah,
I would say it's a mixture of all three.
They got their start by that True You app. So the Circle did that social media app. That's what made them all their money, and then they started branching out into cameras and all that stuff. So,
all right.
I would throw Facebook in there in the mix at least.
Okay, so the way it was kind of explained at first, I thought it had more of like other things, like kind of like Google, where it dealt with like storage and search and other things, and then it had another
branching into that.
Right. Okay. So it's kind of okay. Facebook is probably a better analogy then. I'm sorry. So they go into this. She works for this company called The Circle, which is basically like like Facebook branching into everything, and they have this massive compound where they have basically everything, including dorms, all on this giant fucking compound. So these people live there, and they want when you work there, you have to be basically part of their whole social aspect, which is all the social gatherings and stuff on the compound, and everybody has to be engaged with everybody. That's part of working for the company. Is you also have to be part of that their social circle, for lack of a better word. You also have to be on. They give you a little watch, and they follow you, your health wise and everything.
If you want to be on their health plan, that was the whole thing.
Was that the whole thing? Because I thought once she was there, they were kind of like, yeah, you.
Her friend got her on the health plan.
Well, she was kind of even tricked to drinking the little stuff to start her whole monitoring stuff. She's like, here, drink this. No, drink all of it.
And you could see Emma Watson's eyeball twitch every time they got a little bit more invasive in her life. But the whole thing with the healthcare stuff was, her friend took her there, and that was the girl from Doctor Who. She played, Amy? Yeah. Anyways, took her there and got her the wristband that monitored every single aspect of her body.
Right.
And then was like, when she wasn't able to be friends with everybody and do all the social crap because she had to go home and check on her dad who had an event, they were like, yeah, we'll do this for your dad too so that you can come hang out with us more.
All right, before you get sidetracked, give a quick overview of the movie.
This is the overview.
We'll get into details.
Danny, can you do me one favor, though? Can you move the mic back just a little bit? We got a little Darth Vader action going.
All right. How about now? Is it better?
Okay, so...
No more breathing?
Anyway, there's this company, and it's branching out into things. They're getting into cameras and metrics and everything else, and more invasive into people's privacy and lives. And they do show aspects of ruining people's lives, but it's mostly about growing this business. And then it's about that lack of privacy and what it causes. And I thought it started out strong with that message, and then it just...
Yeah, so it started off with, it started off with the, so the company wants, it keeps pushing for, what do they call it? Total
transparency.
Total transparency. So that there is no more secrets, no more privacy whatsoever. Everything is exposed completely. And they're trying to promote this as a good thing. Which,
they mainly talk about politics first.
They started with, they did it with politics because there was the first person to go fully transparent was a politician. And then
Emma's character
winds up going fully transparent. And
I'm going to stick a pin in the whole thing right there because I have to say something about this. Like, the only time she was allowed to turn off the camera was 3 minutes to go to the bathroom.
3 minutes.
3 minutes to go. What are you supposed to do when you're out? When you bring a guy home or a girl home, when Emma brings whatever she brings home, you know.
How many times have you only been in there for 3 minutes?
There's that too. You know, what are they going to? Are they going to turn the camera back on mid-wipe?
Yeah. Okay. So that was part of the total transparency. So they wanted the total transparency and they wanted to push total transparency just so basically that they could monitor everybody. And Emma Watson's character was going like just all in on this. And then their total transparency, they changed to a new program where they can find people. They used it once they showed it off once to find somebody who was
A child killer or something.
Yeah, she killed some woman who killed her children and then escaped from jail. So they were able to find her. And then they used another example to find a friend of hers who is just completely against all of like technology and stuff. So this guy, when they were following him, and
they'd already ruined his life to some extent because he did wood carvings and made some antlers into a chandelier.
They took a picture of, and everybody got onto him saying he shot the deer
killer, blah blah blah.
Right. But yeah, they kept on chasing him for some reason, and he just kept on running away from them for some reason. I'm not sure why he just didn't.
That whole scene was ridiculous.
It was, and then he
drives off a bridge.
Well, a drone came down and basically slammed into the truck while he was on the bridge, and that caused him to veer off the bridge.
But why is he running? What is he running away from? There's
just
people
all
outside
the
of his house.
He has a problem where he doesn't like people,
and that's fine. But what do these people want?
How many people showed up to his house?
Well, there was two initially.
If that many people showed up to my house and started beating on my doors the way they were beating on his door and trying sticking cameras in the windows, this is Texas. I'm coming out with a shotgun.
Well,
the whole scene was just dumb, though. It was just so.
It was contrived. And then,
very contrived.
And yes, I'm continuing from where he left off. And then Emma's extremely upset about that. But you can tell that there's spin going on. And I really think that this movie would have done a whole lot better as a miniseries with a lot more time, a lot more explanations, and possibly some more character build.
I mean, it was frustrating. Just because it has everything that we talk about all the time about
the loss of privacy,
surveillance state, surveillance capitalism, whatever you want to call it. It has all the hallmarks. It has the evil CEO and Tom Hanks' character who plays the nice guy, but he has this stupid line about privacy being the enemy, and you know, when everybody's lives are available or transparent, that there will never be no more crime or whatever, you know. It's shit we talk about all the time, but the movie
they actually
is
talk about putting trackers into babies' bones.
Yeah, into the bones of babies, but the director or whoever was in control of the flow of this movie made it so flat, so boring for the subject matter.
Really, it was because of the limited time frame. And this part that I'm about to talk about, it was trying to express something very quickly, and you could see it if you were paying attention. When she went back to work and her two of the three bosses, because the other guy, the MacGuffin, is off hiding somewhere, come talk to her, you can tell that there's spin there because they say that that this was a deranged individual that did this, and they're talking about her friend, and you can tell right then that she is planning on something because she didn't even argue with them or say anything about them calling her friend deranged. He wasn't deranged. They just pushed him into driving off a freaking bridge. But
the whole message of this movie is there's no subtlety whatsoever. I mean, they make Tom Hanks say the dumbest supervillain lines. And Bill Paxton, fucked. Or not Bill Paxton, but
we're so fucked.
Patton Oswalt is even worse. And if you had a capable director, I think this would have made a cool, almost horror movie. You know, especially about how far they were willing to go with the chips in babies' bones and things like that. And it could have made it a lot more tense and just. Supposedly it's based on a book, and I haven't read the book. Maybe the book's a lot better, but. I think they just picked the wrong director or wrong.
I think they condensed it too much.
Screenwriter or whoever to do this movie, and it's just they instead of adding nuance and things like that. It was just like somebody made it with just a hammer instead of, you know, any subtlety or any. And everything was so on the nose. And
what you're saying
it was just
there,
a missed opportunity. You know,
what you're saying there makes the ending so much worse.
Oh
Yes.
God,
So much worse. And okay, from there, and yes, I'm going to give away the ending. I don't care.
So if you haven't seen it, and you don't want it spoiled.
It's
We're
been
gonna
out
give
for
it
a
away.
long time.
Yeah, we're going to give it away.
From there, throughout this movie, you've had the third person that helped build this company that kind of separated himself from the compmet and is
John Boyega.
not really in hiding. He Ty something or other.
Yeah.
But he's been in the background. He's met Emma once or twice, and well, she goes and talks to him and sets this all up because he doesn't like the direction the company is heading with this whole anti-privacy crap.
He's like the conscience of the movie, basically.
So at the final town hall, he's the MacGuffin. He's the one that goes and gets all the information and makes it public.
He's the Lugcast.
And that's when Emma gives her speech about, making the two CEOs fully transparent.
Right.
And the emails.
Totally transparent, and sends out their emails and all their private emails and all their other private secure emails that their wives don't know about, blah blah, etc.
Right.
And that's when the guy Tom Hanks leans over and says, "We're so fucked." And then during her speech, she's also saying that she completely agrees with this whole let's get rid of all privacy and puts cameras everywhere. And at the very, very end, that outgoing shot, she's kayaking, which is her favorite thing because she almost killed herself doing it. All the drones are flying around, so that was the future where privacy is completely gone. Now, do you guys want to say anything else about the movie? Did I miss anything there?
No, that sums it up. So the moral of the story is privacy is bad.
Now, I kind of agree. Not that privacy is bad. I think that everybody should have privacy, but I kind of think that that's the way that the direction that the world is going. That eventually there will be so much technology there that privacy is going to be essentially non-existent.
Yeah, I mean that's what
bullshit.
I think the same thing, and we talk about this on the movie all the time, and it's such a great subject matter, especially for this podcast. But to execute it so poorly, and it just sucks. I think that's what makes me so mad at this movie is that they could have done it in such a much better way. And I don't even think it was totally the time limitation. I think just add some subtlety. It doesn't have everything doesn't have to be right on the nose and in your face and so obvious.
Right.
Modern audiences aren't that fucking stupid. They can figure shit out.
I would more agree with you if it wasn't for that ending. I mean, throughout the whole thing, they're trying to showcase how bad it is to lose all your privacy, everything being out there to everybody else, and how judgmental everybody is, and the bad things that can happen from that. And then they're like, yeah, we're all in on this anyway.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, Emma Watson is not a great actress. I thought Tom Hanks was pretty awesome in this, mainly because he's Tom Hanks, and just how he appeared to be so likable to the public. Where he's like America's dad or whatever, by now. But he's underneath, Then you've got his real ego is displayed within Patton Oswalt. His kind of henchman.
Patton Oswalt plays good sleazy guy.
Yeah, and for being a comedic actor, I thought he did pretty damn good.
I like Patton Oswalt. There's a lot of things that he can do, and he's just about everywhere. He's great. Yeah, and I thought there was great acting all around except for her. I mean, she's fine, I guess, but I liked her redheaded friend. I liked her.
Everybody played like a caricature of somebody instead of somebody you can identify with as a person. I thought, But I thought John Boyega did a pretty good job as the pissed off programmer guy. Didn't he start True You, the whole social app, or didn't he create it?
He invented it or whatever.
Yeah.
He was Ty.
Ty. I just felt like his whole character. He's just like, I feel so bad about all this bad stuff that's going on. It's like he could have outed those guys at any point. He had to wait around for Emma Watson's character, for some reason, it's like you felt so bad about it. You should have taken action sooner. And I just the whole way it wrapped up, she's like, "Oh, I'm like kind of responsible for like my friend driving off a bridge, and then I'm gonna go home, sleep it off, call somebody in Scotland, and then I'm gonna go burn this company down."
Yeah,
like, it was
Amelia Bond.
It was terrible pacing in it. Yeah.
Yeah, the tone was all over the place. They couldn't decide what kind of movie it wanted to be.
Actually,
Almost
I'm
like they had
glad
two
that my
directors.
privacy was protected by not watching this.
Yeah. You didn't miss anything that much, trust me. I think what made it so frustrating for me is just because this is a subject that I care about so much and that we discuss so much, and then
I think that ending is
to
why
do
the
such a
movie did
poor
not do
job at
well.
this. I think the whole movie is why this movie didn't do well.
Right.
Probably the direction more than anything. And but it had a killer cast outside of Emma Watson. Everybody else was great.
We didn't even talk about the embarrassing scene with her parents.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, the real awkward.
Multiple awkwards.
Yeah. So do they not know she's wearing this?
No,
They
the
do.
cameras were supposed to shut off during that time.
Okay, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, the camera in her parents' bedroom was not supposed to be on, but it was when she had checked in to see how her parents were doing. And there's her mom sitting on top of her dad using a penis pump to try to get any sort of a thing going on there.
Very awkward. She pretty much alienates anybody that cared about her. I give this a thumbs down. I'm gonna tell you right now.
I'll give it a meh.
Like I said, I thought it started out okay, and then
It was a meh.
It was a good example of a tech movie, but I'm going thumbs down on this one. This is just I couldn't do it.
I have to agree with Honky.
Yeah.
You give it a meh.
Meh. Half a star.
Half a star.
Half a star.
Because it actually was a full-on freaking tech movie.
Yes.
It was.
And
I mean, that's what frustrates me so much.
It was interesting. With the wrong direction. It was poorly done. Had a nice cast to it. But it was at least interesting.
And the moral goes against the entirety of the story.
Right. I'm not mad that I watched it. We've seen in the lists of movies that we've seen, there are movies where I've just been mad that I actually spent the time to watch that movie. And I've had to speed it up to at least 2x just to be able to force my way through it. This I actually watched at regular speed and was perfectly fine with it.
There are movies
didn't agree with it. Didn't like the writing, the way it went. Didn't like the writing or the storytelling necessarily. But I didn't have to force my way through it.
Yeah, and there are movies that I stopped.
Yeah.
10 minutes into it. I noped right out of.
Right. This was not that. This had enough to it that I at least was able to watch it. It was watchable. That's why it gets a meh.
And it had a storyline, which is more than you can say for movies like Bikini Hackers.
Yes. Oh, good God.
All right, what's next?
All right. Go ahead, Honky.
No, I just wanted to. You guys brought up a point that you feel like that everything is going to be everything is heading towards a point of complete transparency or something along those lines. Do you actually believe that? Lack of privacy.
Eventually, yes.
What? Why?
That's just the way things are going. It's more and more that way every year. I mean, think about things when you were a kid. There weren't cameras everywhere. Not everybody had a camera in their pocket. Not everything was posted on social media. Your life couldn't be ruined by saying one stupid thing.
That's a very fair point.
I think urban surveillance is really picking up as far as like what city governments and state governments, are adopting more and more cameras and shot finders and things like that, and police using drones, without search warrants now because the airspace supposedly is free reign. Just stuff like that. Readers. Yeah, exactly.
And we have, like me, I have a Ring camera, and I have two Ring cameras. I have one at the back door. I have one at the front door. The back door one's a floodlight one. The front door one's a doorbell one. they can get hacked at any time, and my front door and back door will be available to the freaking world because it goes out to their servers instead of being something that I own and operate myself. There are people that have Ring cameras throughout the entirety of their homes.
That's crazy.
I can't ever imagine having a camera inside my home.
I had baby monitors.
I
My
had a
babies
baby
were
monitor,
babies.
but that was it. I had, but it wasn't on any sort of a network. It basically just, it transmitted to the one receiver, and that was it, as far as I know. Is there a way to hack into that and to be able to get that? Fine, but it probably you have to catch it through the airwaves and be close enough to catch where it's transmitting from. So they'd have to be nearby, but it's not on the network anywhere or anything.
During the lockdown, during the time of COVID, when we were all stuck at home and the kids were doing school at home, I had to have cameras set up on my son to make sure that he was actually participating in his school stuff while I was out here working, because I couldn't be in the same room as him at the same time because he's doing his stuff, I'm doing my stuff. But I had to be able to keep an eye on him so that I could make sure that he was actually participating in school. So there are valid reasons for it, but in general, I wouldn't want them inside my house either.
You got to stay home?
Yes, because I don't work at a grocery store.
Yeah, my life didn't change at all.
But did your kids have to stay home and do school from home?
Yep, my wife had to basically, her job made her forced her to take all of her PTO to during that time she had to be off because there wasn't any daycare or anything else. Can't send them
Nothing was
anywhere.
open.
They had to be home. My wife was home, and then after about a month of everything closing down, they sent out the school system sent stuff down where she was able to do something close to a class or teaching, but. And besides going from everything shutting down to they sent us at the stores plastic face shields, and then we were finally able to get the masks and stuff. And nope, everybody talks about how they during the time they stayed home, what they wound up doing. I went to work.
A lot of people did. Probably a majority of people did. Some of us did stay home and didn't leave the house except to, go see the grocery store every now and again. So, yeah, but I had to have some means of keeping an eye on him while still being able to do my work. But are those hooked up anymore?
Right?
No. Huh?
That was just for you, though, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But it was also attached to, you can't buy from in the US on Amazon or anything like that. I had to get them quickly because I needed them right then. Regular bog standard, access it over an IP address, IP cameras. It's always got to be through some service that reaches out somewhere and then comes back, and then you can access it that way.
Well, you could. I mean, I don't know.
I could have built my own. Yes, I've done that before.
I was going to say. I mean, it's there's a simple program on like
IP cam.
No, not even IP cam. I mean, just attach a USB camera to a Raspberry Pi or something. Some sort of Raspberry Pi. You probably do it even on a Zero if it's got a USB, and do get the name of the program.
There was one back in the day called Webcam XP.
Motion
would do it.
Motion Eye.
Motion Eye, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Which is a fork of Motion.
That's what I used for to watch my 3D printer, was just Motion Eye and
I probably could have done that, but I
64.
didn't. I just went for a box solution because it was cheap, easy, and would have been here quickly.
There you go.
All my IoT devices are connected to that little mini router I have that's running OpenWRT, and then that has everything blacklisted from the internet, and they can only reach my Home Assistant servers.
And if you remember right, at that time frame, we were also having the chip shortage.
Yeah.
Had difficulty getting Raspberry Pis.
And cameras too, because everybody was working from home and stuff.
Or so doing what I was doing, yeah.
Yeah, everybody wanted a camera, and there was a massive shortage on them.
Yeah, webcams were like super jacked up. I mean, we were looking to buy like 150 webcams at work to do telemedicine, and we were screwed. We paid through the nose for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because a lot of the doctors doing telehealths became huge during that time, and it was easy for people to do. Was just to do instead of going into office for a doctor's visit where they really weren't going to do much of anything anyways, besides talk to the doctor.
But
yeah, it was a mess.
Just because we're behind the curve doesn't mean we're not going to eventually end up the way a lot of European cities are, with like nearly complete CCTV coverage.
Yeah, that's what I'm more afraid of that than anything. I mean, not afraid, but expecting that. Well, if you look at the show notes, you'll see what our next movie is. I don't think you're going to like it.
Oh,
the
crap
Net
burger.
2.0. That's supposed to be like a sequel to the Net.
It is.
Is it?
I've never seen it, but I've just heard so many bad things about it.
Is this the one with Dennis Miller?
No, the original one was.
The original one had Dennis Miller.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe I haven't seen this one either.
Nikki DeLoach, Singus Boskert, and Dimit Akbag. So some really well-known names.
Dimit Akbag?
Yeah.
Dimit
Akbag.
Zingus Boskert, and Nikki DeLoach. Those are like Turkish names. Ertan Saban. It's must have been made in Turkey. Guven Karag.
Try to pronounce the police officer's name there.
Singiz Boskert. Singiz Boskert.
Singiz. I like that. That's pretty good.
I think these are Turkish actors.
Neil Hopkins.
So the synopsis: the life of a young computer systems analyst is thrown into turmoil when, after arriving in Istanbul, to start a new job, she finds her credit cards useless, her bank account empty, and her identity stolen. There you go. That'll be interesting.
We just watched this one with Sandra Bullock again.
No, you have to watch a Turkish movie.
What's this available on?
Tubi.
Is it available on Tubi?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. I like things that are available on Tubi.
Any projects? Other projects you guys are working on?
No, we were talking about it before. I was building a rack, but my rack's not nearly as fancy as his. Mine's just going to be just a stack of stuff.
Just a stack of old books.
No, I'm 3D printing basically just a rack, and I'm just going to stack the stuff on there. It's just basically a way to consolidate. Basically, yes. It's going to be more of a shelf, not nearly as cool or as nice looking as Joe's. I'm just going to be a shelf, so I can consolidate all of between the single board computers and switches and routers and stuff. Try to see if I can consolidate it.
Have you started?
Yeah, it's a slow process.
Let's see it.
Well, I don't have anything really put together. I just have a bunch of pieces.
Gotcha. What about you, Eric? Eric.
Holding a conversation with someone else.
Oh,
I was going to say the video looks like it's frozen.
Yeah, it's frozen on my side.
No, he's talking. I can see his lips moving.
It looks frozen for me.
Me too.
Maybe I refresh.
He's not frozen for me.
Only Joe sees him.
I'm going to refresh him too.
Oh, there he is.
See, he's holding a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a phone call. I don't know.
What happened?
Hi, Eric.
We're talking about projects. I was asking you if you've done anything, worked on computers.
Oh, sorry.
Back to your headset?
I was.
You're on your speakers. Or is that Minnix?
Minnix has to mute his gypsy.
Oh, okay.
It's
I refreshed me.
It's not you.
There we go. No, it was me,
I'm on that.
Eric.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Do I have any projects? No. I mean, basically, same as we talked about a couple weeks ago. So I haven't done anything, honestly. It's a shame. I always have these grand ideas and plans of like, I'm going to get these things done. And the truth of the last couple of weeks has just been, no, you're not going to get anything done. And tough shit if you don't like it.
My motivation comes in like spurts, where all of a sudden I just get a wild hair and say, okay, I'm going to do this. And I just get so obsessed with it until I finish it. And then 6 months later, I'll do something else, It's just kind of weird how that works.
Mine's
are you still
just,
using... I was just going to ask you if you're still using the Pine Time at all. I know you said there was an issue where like something where it just basically stopped working for you or something.
Yeah, no, I switched to I have a Pixel Watch.
Oh yeah, okay.
So,
how's that?
It's like a completely different thing. The Pine Time was unfortunately very limited in what it could do, and it was also not very consistent. So on paper, I just wanted something that was going to give me all of my alerts on my wrist so that I could feel the notifications and then be able to respond to them, because I was getting a lot of flack from people from not feeling my phone in my pocket.
Right.
And so either I'd not hear it or not feel it, one of the two. And so I thought, okay, at a minimum, I wanted to be able to get like notifications, vibrating ones on my wrist. And when it worked, when it gave me them, it was great. They were fine. But it seemed like there was a lot of them that were not not working for some reason, and I could not figure out why. The biggest problem with that watch is its reliance on the third-party app that was being sort of a general app for all.
Gadget Bridge.
Yeah, Gadget Bridge, because it's not really built for the Pine Time, and also because the Pine Time scope is pretty narrow. It wasn't clear which features in there in Gadget Bridge were actually applicable to Pine Time. So there were things that I thought should work but didn't. And it was also just a lot of like, workarounds and hacks and stuff. So I really feel like, and I get it, Pine 64 did not put a lot of, effort into, or at least they're not selling it for very much. So why would they build custom software or have the management software for it? But what I figured out is that the watch itself is capable as it can be, really without a phone component, so either for if you're into the health tracking stuff, if you're into, the ability to have like interoperability and stuff like that, like you really need to have a solid app on the phone. And so that's where it failed me in a lot of cases. Then it just like the screen just basically broke and stopped working too. So that was the other big thing, is after about almost a month or just around a month, the screen just got a lot of artifacts on it. And it was weird because like it would go away for a little bit, or if I rebooted it would be okay. But then like very soon after, it would be right back to the way it was. And then at first it was just the top of the screen, and then it started to come down. So yeah, the experiment of, did I enjoy having a smartwatch and the promise of the things that it could do if it was working properly? And so at least helped me answer that question, that yes, I did want to have that. And then when I went looking for, OnePlus has a nice watch, and Samsung obviously has one, the Google Pixel one.
Nowhere watch. Or no,
Yes.
not Nowhere, Nothing watch.
Nothing watch. Yep. And those are all the Wear OS watches, the Android stuff. And then you have other manufacturers like CMF that make their own, that have its own sort of custom operating system or watch, system. Excuse me. What's the one that trying to think of the other manufacturer that I have been looking at. Let's see. I'm not sure where it is right now, but Finitime or something like that. Anyway, so there are other watches, and so it really came down to, the stuff like the CMF watch and some of the lower powered ones last for a long time, but you also still get most of the things. You just don't get the convergence with the phone, except that you get it through their app, and so whether or not the app's any good. I think if I had to do over again, like I don't love the Pixel Watch, and the biggest reason why is it's so reliant on Fitbit because Google bought Fitbit.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It's really, unfortunately, their integration of it just feels like it's really bolted on, and just sort of like slapped on there. Like here's a Google Pixel product that's really like a Fitbit product with some Pixel stuff thrown on there. That's kind of how I feel. It's like, and Wear OS is okay. The assistant is okay. I do use the speakerphone, believe it or not. It's really easy to just hit the button and talk to someone for a minute. I wouldn't have a long call on it, but it's good for a quick call. So there's stuff to like about it. The fact that it has a custom strap connection is really stupid and annoying instead of just like a normal one that you can get any band. So you're really limited in the bands you can get. It's really a big like mix of pros and cons. And the reason I wanted this one over a Galaxy Watch or some of the others, except for the OnePlus, is the battery life, because this one will last a solid like 2 days, pushing into the third day, versus what everyone has said the Galaxy Watch will barely last a day. Which is just kind of unacceptable, I think.
Mine does like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, mine.
What do you have?
Mine's at 3 days.
The 5, I think, 5 or 6.
Okay,
5 or 6.
That's what I got. Mine at one of those Galaxy Watch. Yeah.
Galaxy Watch.
Okay. Every review I read was like, no, you barely can get a day out of it. So maybe I'm just following the wrong people.
No, I've heard that about the Apple Watch for sure.
Yeah.
So one of the iterations of the Galaxy Watch did have that problem, but a lot of that is people have that thing turned on wherever you turn your wrist, the screen comes on. That's the first thing I turn off. I keep that on.
Mine's got the constant screen on unless I turn it, and then it becomes like active. So it goes into like a sleep mode where it just shows the time, and then it'll show everything else once I like either hit the thing or if I turn my wrist. And mine's the Galaxy Fit 3, so it's supposed to be more like the band. What do you want to call it? The
Fitbit
fitness one. It's
supposed
slimmer.
to be more. Yeah, it's the slimmer design and stuff, but it's got like a 4-day battery life, even with it constantly running like that.
Gotcha. The one I was thinking of is Amazfit was the one I was trying to think of.
Yeah. I had Amazfit.
Did you have the Blip?
So
or whatever? Bip?
I had 2 of them. I had the Bip and the Amazfit GT5, something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, they just came out with I think it's called the Active, and it's Active 2, so it's a round face instead of the original Active is a rectangular face, and I think that looks pretty good.
And you can't beat the price.
And what's weird though is they did one for 100, and then they have one that's 129, which is like the premium version. And it's like I don't know who wouldn't just want the premium features in the first place. So if I'm considering like maybe getting it, I'm playing this game with myself where I have a bunch of like stuff, a collection of things that I don't want, or just stuff around the house that if I had just sold, I could probably like make hundreds of dollars off of, and then it's like, then I can just like justify buying another watch. Because it's funny, because I got this watch, and my wife and daughter were both like, "Why did you get another watch? You already have like 5 watches." I'm like, maybe I like watches.
The collector,
and I do.
Yeah,
actually, I mean, I don't want to be obsessive about it, but I actually do enjoy watches. So. Is it such a big deal? I don't know.
I got my grandpa's watch up on the mantle.
Oh, do you? Oh my God, they're in the other room yelling right now, yelling and crying and screaming. Some kind of.
This is why you're in here and not out there.
Some kind of 12-year-old crisis.
Is it concerning your watch collection?
Yeah.
No, it's
Daddy's
concerning.
Watches are getting out of hand.
Concerning not having the right bathing suit for a party or something.
Yeah, that's a big
crisis.
Yeah. So it's distracting. anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I think the Amazfit for the price, like the build quality looks really good. The one reason I didn't go for it in the first place was there's a guy, a German guy that does testing of all of like the GPS, the heart monitor, like all of that stuff to see how accurate it is. And a lot of these watches, the Amazfits in particular, did terrible on pretty much all of his tests. Yeah,
most of them are terrible.
But apparently this Amazfit Active 2, for whatever reason, it does really well. So it might be one that I just want to take a look at because it has a 10-day battery life for typical use, which is pretty sweet. Large display, 44 millimeter case, 2000 nits brightness. And I think the Zepp app actually looks pretty good. I mean, I don't have any,
it's fine
experience with it, but for what it is, I mean, it can't be worse than the Fitbit. I personally think Fitbit is the app itself is terrible. Like, it's really not good, and it doesn't have like a dark mode. It's really janky for what it is. It's like, it's hard to believe that that's like one of the best. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know, maybe I'm just picky, I guess.
So final verdict on the Pine Time? I'll let you put it through all its paces.
If it wouldn't have broken, I probably would have a better rating for it. But because I know Moss had one and it broke, and the one I have, and so Bill has one and he says his still works, which is fine. But yeah, no, I was just disappointed because it was not consistent. It relied on poor software, with no offense to the people who do Gadget Bridge, and then it just
build quality. Yeah. Oh, well, that's too bad.
It is. It is. And after all it was all said and done, I ended up spending like $50 because I had to pay shipping and all the rest of it. So even though it's only a $25 watch, by the time you get it shipped, and it took like 5 weeks to get here, and
Pine's shipping is rather expensive, which is why I try to make sure when I buy something from them, I buy enough to make it worth it. So, like when I bought the Pine Time, I made sure to also get the power supply that they had, which was really good. It lasted a couple of years before it died, and then, or not the Pine Time, but the Pine Sol. I got the Pine Power, and then I also made sure to get the tips for the Pine Sol from them, because they had a really good price on the tips that only was worth it if I was buying other things and bringing the aggregate cost of shipping down.
Gotcha.
Now on Amazon, they have something called the Pin Time, PINTIME. It's a Chinese knockoff. They try to fool you.
You gotta love Amazon. Amazon has just become an absolute sewer. It's amazing.
It's awful.
No, it's weird awful. Because I see the exact same things on AliExpress, like the exact same things, except they have a markup, and the shipping time in a lot of cases is the exact same. So
it's just Amazon has become a drop shipper for AliExpress.
Yeah. Well, did you see that they have their own version of it now? Let me see. I forget what it's called, but Amazon Haul, and it's basically just like all of those.
Temu or something.
Yeah, no, I mean, you go to Haul and it's like, it's the same thing. Like, get 60% off everything and save $5 or off of 50, 10% off of 75, and it's all just like $2 like garbage. Like it is. It's just all like it's just junk. It's like literally looking at Temu. It's just junk. And I guess the difference is that maybe you don't have to wait forever for shipping, but it doesn't tie in with Prime. So you have to spend $25 to unlock free shipping. And yeah, it's just, so I guess this is Amazon's way of trying to, they've got fashion, electronics and office, accessories, kitchen, home improvement, beauty, sports, and it's just
trash.
It's all just garbage.
And I order stuff from AliExpress. I should have like 5 batteries that just showed up in my mailbox for headsets.
So I have a
Because you
little
can't buy them anywhere else.
Amazon story, and I just knew in the back of my head this was going to happen. So Brita makes a what would you call, a water filter container? No, not the pitcher, but it's like a big one, called the Stream, Brita Stream Ultra
Yeah, it's
Slim.
that giant one, right?
Yeah, and
It takes up like your whole shelf in your fridge.
it's ultra. They make one called the Ultra Slim, and so it's only like this narrow. So my girlfriend has one that fits perfectly between her sink and her fridge. There's a little bit of cabinet space, so I couldn't find it anywhere. Apparently they quit making it or something, but I found it online from just a random seller on Amazon, and but it was a third-party seller, and I looked at the seller's reviews, and they got like 1.5 stars out of 5. I thought, oh great, there's no way they got this. I said, I know what they're doing is they're drop shipping shit, and then having Amazon do fulfillment. And so if I order this, they're gonna send me the wrong one. I guarantee it. So I ordered it January 2nd through them. And they had 3-day shipping. I get it today, the 17th. It's not even the Brita Stream Ultra Slim. It's just the regular giant container that they marked up and tried to trick me into. They knew this wasn't what I ordered, and it's supposed to come with 3 filters. Didn't come with any of that, and so I immediately signed a return notice. I said, I waited 3 weeks for this fucking thing. It's not even the right one, and I knew they were going to do that. And so I'm hoping that I can get a hold of Amazon and say, you need to kick this fucking seller off your marketplace because they're doing this to everybody.
I heard a really interesting sort of conspiracy theory about this, because basically someone was saying, well, why would you even, what's the point of sending this shit out? Because it's either the wrong product or you never get it, or they tell you got it and you didn't. You know, it's like a game. What is the game? Why are they doing it? And someone was like, well, that's just a way to harvest contact information from people. And because whenever you buy shit, you know, you're giving them credible contact information,
address and all that.
Exactly. And so now basically they don't care that you're not going to get anything fulfilled. They didn't lose anything. You'll probably get your money back from whatever platform, because you're going to go bitch to Amazon. Exactly. And so then the seller just harvested your data, and they'll get kicked off, but who cares? They'll just create another account. You know, I was like, damn, that's probably what it is.
And like the name of the seller is not even spelled correctly. Let's see. They're called, they're called Pet Friendly. And this isn't even a pet for pets or anything, but friendly is spelled Freindly instead of Iendly. You'd think your store name you would spell correctly. And then their address, where it comes from, is really weird. 30 lowercase n, lowercase gould, lowercase st, lowercase ste, 41937. So that all lowercase street name and everything. Sheridan, Wyoming, with some suite, supposedly. It's called All City Shop LLC. It's so sketchy.
It's probably tied to some like militia commune somewhere that's like, you know, this is the way that they're able to make money, and
it's just scam people
more
on
weapons.
Amazon.
Well, I'm waiting for an Amazon order, and I've been seeing Amazon, yeah, we'll deliver this tomorrow, and nope, Nick, 2 or 3 days. We really promise you tomorrow, but, 2 or 3 days. I don't know whether Amazon is just having shipping problems or what's going on.
I don't either. Yeah, they did that to me with the humidifier I ordered. And what they would do is says, if it's not here by so-and-so date, come here for a refund. So I'd go to the page, And then they changed it. If it's not here by 3 days later, come for a refund. Went back to the page 3 days later. If it's not here by so and so, come back. Like, what the fuck, you know?
Also, I've been trying Lenovo mini PCs, and one of them came with this Mickey Mouse power supply that was maybe the right power supply, but it was about the size of a standard mains breaker instead of a laptop brick. Well, for $20, I was able to get a regular Lenovo power supply that looked like a laptop brick, and the machine has been much happier, but I had to buy the extra power supply to get something that's working halfway decent. I don't know if it's a reseller thing or my Mickey Mouse power and that small supply just didn't like each other. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
My confidence that what I am buying is what I'm going to get, or that it is truly the best option for my money, because that's another one. I feel like I'll search for something, my wife will search for something, she'll get different results than I do.
I learned that a long time ago. That's a good point. That
yeah,
well, most of the time Amazon is not the best value for your money as far as buying the same product.
Okay.
No.
But I think he was going somewhere else with that, because sometimes my wife will get different prices than I will.
Oh,
on the exact same product. Like, she'll send me the link, I'll click on it, and my price will be higher than hers.
Really? I haven't heard of that. I put the address of that seller in the matrix, and if you go to the Google Maps and look up, it's called Wyoming Corporation Office. It's the most generic money laundering place I've ever seen.
Right?
Wow.
One of the things that I've found with some of the stuff when you order these mini PCs is that you may not get the same generation you're actually ordering.
Oh, really?
You'll get 2 generations down, and sometimes, like I've had one PC which had a dead DisplayPort socket, and I've had one where I thought I was going to get VGA capability and they didn't have the VGA port on it. You know, I mean, sometimes it's an upgrade from, let's say, 700 generation to 900 generation on the product. And some of the latest mini PCs are advertising 10 gigahertz USB, but just sometimes, you know, you don't know what kind of approximation you know, you order a Lenovo PC and it may be labeled as an HP PC or some mini PC or whatever. I mean, I've been happy with the units that I've got, or I've been able to make them work. But, you know, when I order a certain generation of processor with certain outputs, I expect to get that generation and that processor.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you absolutely have an expectation that, I mean, it's not like you would ever walk into a brick and mortar store and they would have a box describing the contents and then have, you know, the wrong contents in the box. You know, which is exactly what, the box being the listing, the images that are being shown. I've seen someone's not just one, but I mean several where the reviews don't relate to the product. It's like, I just, at this point, the whole like enshittification thing, if you guys are familiar with that concept, where you start by making the users happy and then you pick it up by having the sellers be happy, and then you basically just rape everybody and make it so that you're making as much money as you can, and you literally just don't give a shit about anybody at this point, like, because who's the competition? You've already bought everybody. There's really almost nowhere to go. And anyway, so I feel like we're squarely in that territory with Amazon at this point, where I used to feel like, especially for like little gadget type stuff, like I would, search for a charger or for a battery or for just like a household kind of thing, and you would get, kind of a list of products from companies that you would recognize, and and now if you get any brand of something that you actually recognize when you're trying to buy anything like that, like I just bought a teapot for the kitchen. Our neighbors have literally the same teapot, but they probably bought it a year ago off of Amazon. Has a completely different name from the product, from the company who designed it or built it or sold it. It has literally the exact same design, 100% the same piece of equipment. Just the only thing that's different is the name that's on it. And, that's what Amazon is now. It's just a bunch of junk companies that don't even really exist, or exist to sell like one big batch of something. And then as soon as that stuff is gone, they just, make up another name. And I just don't, I've pondered this, like, it seems like you would put a little bit of effort into just building a brand and having a recognizable name, but I guess at least, and I can't say it's directly like China specifically, although I do think that's who it is. Which makes me think, like, is that what business is to them? Like, they just don't care about that part of it? Yes. Like, they just want the thing and don't, I don't know. It's confusing.
Joe, what was that we were looking at on the show on Amazon one time, that the product we were looking, the reviews were like for like baby diaper or
I don't know what we were looking at, but it's a fairly common practice for them to have a product that reviews well and then swap in a crap product instead, and then
it was something completely different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you guys been solicited to provide a 5-star review in exchange for a gift card?
Oh yeah, I never fall for that.
Nope.
I have a lot.
No, I don't either, but it happens pretty frequently, and that's like supposedly, against the rules, but like Amazon cares at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then I get sent shit all the time that I didn't order. You guys get that too? That way they can build a reputation on Amazon. Like, they'll send out cheap shit like phone cases, and they have a name for it. I forgot what the official name for it. It's fraud, but
and then they write a positive review because it's confirmed delivery.
Yeah, confirmed delivery. So they'll get somebody else to write the review for it. But yeah, I get that stuff sometimes.
Ridiculous, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I'm still waiting for a couple of parts that I need for my Pi stuff, but I've been setting up and using a lot of my desktops and shuffling monitors around and stuff. One of the things that I've found is that I use XFCE with multiple monitors, and I have one monitor where I put all the notifications and panels and stuff, and maybe use that for writing text, and then more high definition monitors I use for video or stuff. That way I can use some of the old 1280 by 1K monitors as basically dashboards or simple text screens, and then the higher resolution stuff is on a 16 by 9 monitor or 16 by 10, whatever. So I haven't been doing that much. I've just been doing that, and I got one of my brother's laptops hooked up to a 720p screen that I had. It makes a nice setup for YouTube and whatnot. And it has a late generation i5 or whatever with lots of threads, but not too much memory. Seems like they're pushing the thread count on their on basically laptop processors or low power processors. That's more of a feature, a pretty feature, without really necessarily providing much horsepower.
I was going to talk about zabbix, but that's going to take a while. So I think I will just discuss my next project, and I'm going to put some links in the show notes. What I was talking about on the Matrix earlier today. So I found this self-hosted app called Storyteller. It's in the show notes. So what Storyteller does is, if you read books and listen to books, kind of like how I was describing last time about voice aloud on the Android app that has TTS options, so you can hear your books too. Storyteller takes an audiobook as input and an ebook as input, and then it does it uses machine learning to sync the audiobook to the ebook, so that when you're reading the book, you can, wherever you left off on one device, you can pick up on another device and listen to that book if you'd rather listen to it instead of read it. And so it syncs the audio with the ebook, so whatever you do, listen or read, it'll sync them up, and you'll always be where you left off. And it's pretty cool the way it does it. But what it doesn't do, what I was hoping it would do, was create a high quality audiobook from the ebook, because I'm using the voice aloud, which with their built-in voices and the Samsung voice, and it's okay, but it's not like if you had an actual human narrator reading a book to create an audiobook, like we talked about before, how it gets a lot of words wrong out of context, like live and live and read and read and stuff like that, lead and led. But this one supposedly has a pretty high quality. It can either use an offsite machine learning engine, or it can use one that's ran by your GPU or your or CPU, like Piper, or it can use like the Microsoft Azure API or OpenAI API to make that to sync those two things up. But what I wanted to find was something that was what do you call it? That would create the ebook. with a high quality voice, or create the audiobook with a high quality voice from the ebook text. And I found something. Got it in my wallet bag.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you were talking about using your GPU for that.
Yeah, so I think this is what I'm going to do with my my little gaming computer that I never use since I don't really have time to play games, or I just don't play games anymore. Oh, goodness. Huh.
When you were talking about the reading thing, do you mean read aloud?
It's called Voice Aloud.
Voice aloud. Okay.
That's
I've
the
never
name of
heard
the
that.
app. Yeah, Voice Aloud on the Android store.
Okay, because I use one called
It's a
Read
good
Aloud, which is
It's
does
probably,
kind of the same.
it might be
thing,
the
I
same
guess.
concept. Yeah.
I use a couple of different ones.
I have to try that because I used to use the Android Assistant to do that because you could you whatever web page you had up or whatever. I don't know if it worked for ebooks, but for web pages at least, if you loaded it and said read this, it would read the page. Gemini Assistant doesn't do that, and so maybe this would be an alternative.
Yeah, so there's two sites here. One is called ebook to audiobook converter. Put that in the show notes. And these are both self-hosted. Oops. A bag URL.
Okay. That requires a password.
Yeah, not that. Okay, this one is called ebook to audiobook.
What's Wallabag again?
It's like Pocket. You know Pocket?
No.
It's like a link bookmarker. So any web page or whatever, or podcast or anything really that you want to save, you just share it to your wallet bag. I have it hosted on the Raspberry Pi. The other one is called ebook to audiobook, all one word. And this one actually seems a little more fleshed out.
This has audio bookshelf integration.
Yep.
Freaking awesome.
And the one I'm looking at is the one
Where my
that's
Glenn Cook books are going.
by Drew Thomason, ebook to audiobook. They use a CPU or a GPU to convert ebooks to audiobooks with chapters and metadata using Calibre, FFmpeg, XTT, SV2, Fairsec, and more. Supports voice cloning in 1,124 languages. It's warning. This tool is intended for use with non-DRM, legally acquired ebooks only.
Well, oh, wait.
But they have a little Docker Compose file to run it with Docker, all encompassing. And so that's probably how I'll do it. That's what I'm going to use that little gaming computer for. Convert my ebooks into audiobooks and then put them into Storyteller. And that way I can listen or read. And actually, the Storyteller app is very nice, the Android app.
So for this one, you need Azure Text-to-Speech API credentials?
You can either use that or Piper, which is open source, I believe. EPUB to audiobook converter. And the OpenAI to generate Piper TTS there too. Which Piper is not that great, I don't think. That's why I'm kind of looking at the Drew Thomason one. Ebook to audiobook, all one word. And it has a web interface where you just upload your ebooks. You can download your audiobooks. And it uses Hugging Face, the guys that made, what is that? The AI
Stable
stuff.
Diffusion.
Stable Diffusion, yeah.
All right.
So anyway, I'll probably give both a try, see how they do. Last commit on this one was 3 weeks ago. It's not too bad. Or last version released 3 weeks ago.
I hate to say it, guys, but I'm just falling over. I've been up virtually all day, so I think I'll say goodnight.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting there myself. Honestly, I was literally falling asleep. So, not because of the conversation. I'm just tired. You know.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I was up so
Right.
We see how it is.
Yeah, right.
Whatever. Whatever.
That's all projects I was going to talk about.
All right. So, does anybody have anything else before we close it down for the night? No? All right. So our next recording date will be February 7th, 2025. Our music is Downright, provided by Klaatu and Broam, and we'd like to thank Minnix for the use of the Mumble server, and Jitsi server, and Matrix server, and Lemmy server, and basically you're hosting most everything. All right.
Real quick before we sign off, would 1 terabyte be large enough to hold the show archive?
I don't know. Probably.
Okay. I was going to go ahead and set up something on the Pi, an external disk, and
so it's you imagine it's probably most is about a gig per episode if you just download one, whether it's OGG or the MP3.
Oh, okay.
And starting after this episode, there'll be 260. So
Yeah.
you're talking about that would be possibly 260 gigs.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
You know, give or take, depending. There's also some blue moons and other stuff. So
A gig per episode? No. You're talking about the raw WAV file, right?
yeah, actually, you know what? You're right. The raw WAV file is more like a gig. The
But you
actual
don't post
episodes are
those
about
on
like
archive, do you?
no. It's probably more like 512 or something like that. Megabytes. Let's see.
Yeah, it's probably just over maybe 100 megabytes or under. The
Yeah,
MP3
probably.
you post? Yeah.
You're probably right.
A terabyte would be plenty. Like, right, get way
I would
less.
imagine.
Yeah.
We're just gonna size here. Oh yeah. Much less. 75 megs.
Okay.
much less.
Right.
Less than what I was saying. Yeah, the raw WAV file is like a gig. You're right. Yeah. So you're talking about there's 260. So you know, a terabyte should be more than enough.
Yeah, so I'll set that up for the next show. We'll go back and forth and see if we can get something working.
All right. All right, I've been your host this evening. I'll keep it good with us tonight has been Eric.
Sorry, I was definitely not just sitting here playing with screen readers.
Joe.
Good night.
Lovecraft.
Good night, guys. Catch you next time.
Minnix.
Good night, boys.
Morton C.
Good night.
And that might really called it a night.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.